Welcome to CRC's Garage. I'm Chris. Today we're going to be working on my 2005 Dodge Neon SXT. It's got the 2.0 liter 4-cylinder. It's a 5-speed manual. It made 132 horsepower at 5,600 RPM from the factory. So this is going to be a dual purpose vehicle. It's going to be a daily driver, so we can't ruin the ride too much. And we're going to build it for autocrossing. So it still needs to ride relatively good. So there's going to be some sacrifice. It's not going to be a dedicated autocross vehicle. So, but we still should be able to improve on it. So we're going to see what we could do to do that. But the goals for the vehicles, we're going to try to improve the gas mileage, get a little bit more MPGs out of it, increase horsepower, braking, and cornering. Braking is going to be a big thing for autocross, along with getting some better tires on it eventually. I'd like to have 2 sets for it, one that's for the track and one that's still for the street, but that's down the road yet. Just because I'm using a Dodge 19-year-old Neon, the concepts and ideas that we'll be doing to the car, it should be able to be used on any vehicle. So yeah, just because I'm using the Dodge, don't think it's not going to apply to anything else, because the ideas will translate to any other vehicle. So right now we're just going to try to get it back to as close to factory as we can. A bunch of the bushings are worn out, ball joints and tie rod ends, the boots are torn, so they're on their way out. So we're going to go through, replace all the stuff that's worn out. The one thing that we are going to improve on right now was the clutch. We're replacing the clutch, new throwout bearing. Since we're in there, we're going to put a limited slip in it. So that's one upgrade that we're not going to get a baseline for with the open diff. Just because it's too much of a hassle trying to pull the transmission out, putting a limited slip in, and then putting it back in just for that. So right now we're going to pull the transmission out, replace the clutch, throw out bearing, and put a limited slip in the thing, and that's where the baseline we're going to start with. So let's get started. All right, this is what we're starting with. She's dirty. It's been neglected for 10 years. So the first things first, we're going to degrease the engine compartment because there's a bunch of stuff we need to fix inside here, and just by cleaning it up, it'll make it a little bit nicer to work on. So that's the first step. Picked up a can of engine degreaser, and we're gonna soak it down and rinse most of this crap off, hopefully. So engine bay is a little bit cleaner after degreasing it and washing it, so a little bit nicer to work on, but it still needs a deep clean. Serpentine belts I'm gonna replace. I don't know how long those have been going since they've been replaced. Power steering pump's starting to groan and make a little bit of noise, so I think I'm gonna replace that. As you can see, that motor mount is shot, so I need to get one of those. Yeah, clutches, disengagements all the way at the floor, so that's gonna have to be changed sooner than later. Interior, I pulled the door panel off last night. The window regulators need to be replaced. The glass doesn't go up or down anymore. I'm gonna start cleaning up the interior, do a deep clean all this out as best I can for now. I'm gonna pull the driver's seat out because I want to get that reupholstered. Seems like the plastic will clean up though. I scrubbed that with some 303 last night and it cleaned up nicely. So all the plastic should clean up nicely. The seats, for the most part, except for the driver's seat, are in pretty good shape. And the dash I'm going to need to find, and the armrest here, all the foams collapsed from the heat. It was in Arizona for pretty much its entire life as far as I know, so the heat takes its toll down there on interior plastics. But other than that, let's clean it up and see how good we could get it. As parts have been coming in, I've been replacing them. So I found a new dash pad for the car. I got that installed. It wasn't too bad. It's 4 screws and a couple clips. Old one was really easy to come out. It was pretty much disintegrated into 20 pieces. So that came out really easy, and the new one wasn't too difficult to go in either. So one less thing off the list, or one other thing off the list, and seat. I got the seats out to clean, like I said earlier. The driver's seat's off at the upholsterer, so we're waiting for that to get done. We can install the interior. Right now, the window regulators finally came in, so we'll be replacing those. It doesn't look like too big of a job, so since I got the interior apart to clean the carpets and everything, since I'm in here, I'm gonna replace the bushings for the shifter with polyurethane ones. They're starting to get a little sloppy. That one's not too bad. You can see, if you look really close, see the white plastic moving inside the black piece with not much movement. So they're worn out. So since it's all apart, it's easy to get to right now, and then I don't have to do it later. We're just going to replace them with polyurethane ones. Same thing at the transmission side. I already did one of them with polyurethane. That one was really bad. That one's not really bad at all, but since I got it apart, I'm just going to do it because you had to pull the battery tray out and the air cleaner assembly out to get to it. So we'll take care of that now. Get that done. I'm sorry I forgot to film it, but those white bushings with the metal clips that were on the shifter that connected to the cables, those were not the correct. Someone just put them in there to make them work. They should have all looked like that, rubber factory. But now there's polyurethane ones in there, so hopefully those last for the lifetime of the car. But as you can see, getting the interior back together, center console's back in, the driver's seat's back from the upholsterer, so that looks really good. It was the only one that was worn out, so that's back in now. Just waiting on some more parts so I can finish up putting the driver's side or the passenger side door back together now. So I finally think all the parts are in. So today we're gonna continue working on the neon, getting it back to stock basically, replacing all the worn out parts, and yeah, getting it back on the road. So got a new clutch. And the goal for this car, we're going to use this for a daily driver, and we're going to do some autocross with it. So this is the pile of parts that we're using to replace everything. Brand new clutch. So we're going to upgrade the car as we go, but the one thing that we're going to put in for now should improve it in autocrossing is a limited slip differential. The car has an open diff right now, but since we're pulling the transmission out to replace the clutch, it's going to be easier to replace or to put the limited slip in while we're doing that. And then pretty much everything else is just routine maintenance while replacing stuff that's worn out. So these bushings are worn out. I don't think that motor mount's worn out, but I have one. It came with the car, so I'm just going to replace it. We'll stick a new timing chain, or timing belt, sorry, in there. Power steering pump is starting to groan, so we're going to replace that. I want to flush out all the original brake fluid because it's probably the original brake fluid. And then once that's done, we'll get it back on the road, get some kind of performance measurements, see what the gas mileage is, and then we'll put a Canon air filter in the stock air box, and then polyurethane, where the strut, they call them motor mount inserts, so they go inside these openings here. It's supposed to help keep the motor from rocking. So we'll put those in and see if it does anything. But that's where we're at. We're gonna start ripping apart the car, pull the wheels off, pull the half shafts out, drop the transmission, and we'll go from there. So I'm using a Dodge Neon to see how different modifications affect the vehicle. So we're going to see what stuff affects fuel economy, and since I want to use this for autocross, we're going to see what things can improve driving it on an autocross. So, like when we get to the Canon air filter, polyurethane sway bar bushings, cold air intake, I have SRT4 brakes that we're going to put on the thing. So the idea, the parts will be different, but the idea of all these performance parts will work with other vehicles. So don't just think because I'm working on a Dodge, it won't apply to other vehicles. Just the parts will be different, but the idea of the parts that we use will apply to other vehicles. So I think it'll be a fun project. These are pretty good handling cars. The first generation ones were a little bit better than the second generation. This is a second generation. They got heavier, so they don't handle it as well as first generation ones, but it was still decent handling car. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun project. And so got the car up on jack stands and pulling apart the wheel and everything, because we got to pull out the half shafts so we can pull the transmission. But I'm inspecting stuff as we go, and it looks like the control arm bushing there is shot. The one up front looks okay. I have to see if you could buy just the bushing, or if it comes as a complete assembly of the whole lower control arm, which that's probably what it does, is it probably comes as a complete assembly anymore. But I was inspecting the rotors. They're grooved. They should be turned down, but I measured them with my calipers. If they get turned down, they'll probably be outside the minimum spec. So I should replace the rotors, but I'm not going to, because there's still enough pad on these. These will be okay for now. I want to upgrade to the SRT4 brakes, so it's not worth buying new rotors, new pads, just to run them for a couple months until we upgrade to the SRT4 stuff. So if you weren't gonna upgrade, I wonder if the camera could pick up those waves, those grooves, but if you weren't gonna upgrade brakes, I would replace these. If they would pass, I would, if they were still thick enough, like these aren't. These are old. It's really bad. I would get them. I would turn OEM rotors down as long as they're going to be within the minimum spec. All rotors have them on here. This one has it on the inside. 20.4 millimeters is the minimum thickness the rotor could go down to. But anyways, I would reuse the OEM stuff if it would pass before buying new rotors. The OEM stuff is going to be better in the long run. Just the OEM stuff, or the aftermarket stuff, just seems to be, especially if you're buying just the cheapest ones, your OEM rotor turned down is going to be better than the cheapest aftermarket rotor that you could find. So yeah, we're just gonna throw these back in the car for now, and then in a little, we're gonna do some testing, and then we'll upgrade to the SRT4 stuff. I probably need to get new rotors for that stuff too. So, but the SRT4 stuff is the stuff we'll upgrade, not this stuff. So, let me get back at it, pulling this apart, get this transmission out. So, transmission's out. We got the timing belt and everything off on this side, and we put the new water pump on, and we started putting the all the timing pieces back together. We'll finish that up tomorrow. But once we get all the new stuff I have for this side of the engine, I gotta crack the transmission open yet, put the limited slip in, and then we can start putting that back in on this side. it took forever for the proper shims to come in for the differential, but they finally came in, and the neon is finally back together. So the car, as it sits, is basically stock. Everything, the only upgrade that it has right now is the limited slip differential. Everything else, all the bushings and the control arms, they've been replaced with rubber. Even the air cleaner, it's still a paper element. So yeah, so right now, we're just going to finish breaking in the clutch. We got to drive it around for 450 miles, something like that, stop and go traffic, to break in the clutch, and then we'll start doing performance modifications to the thing. The brakes are horrible. I showed you in this video earlier that they're really bad. They need to be replaced. So we'll be doing the SRT4 brake upgrade, going to those brakes. But like I said, I want to break in the clutch before we start doing any testing, because I want to do a brake test before with the stock size discs in the front, and this has drums in the rear right now. So we'll be going to disc all the way around, and we're going to do that first, and then start up, like I said, start upgrading stuff. But I want it to ride. I want to keep it riding stock for the most part. I don't want to affect the ride quality too much. We'll see. I want to use this for autocross. I want to upgrade it, but I still want to use it as a daily driver. So we got to be careful on what suspension parts we use, because I don't want to ruin that ride quality. But I want to get some polyurethane control arm bushing, stuff like that, and try that out. If it affects the ride too much, we'll go back to the rubber. But yeah, so they'll be in future testing. But like I said, right now we just got to brake in the clutch. I'm going to get a baseline for gas mileage, performance, 0 to 60, stuff like that, braking. And then we'll start modifying. So the test procedure for the car, well, for any of the vehicles that we test, we'll stop at the gas station, let it click off twice, the gas pump click off twice on its own. There's about a 40-mile loop that we're going to do. Hopefully that's long enough to establish a good baseline and to see changes as we upgrade the car. But we'll do the 40-mile loop, come back to this exact same gas station, same pump, let it click off twice, just like when we filled up the car, and then we'll calculate gas mileage. And then I have a Draggy GPS device that links up to your phone, and we'll do a quarter-mile run. We'll do 3 of them and get an average for any performance gains that we're going to see. So we'll start with that. We'll start with miles per gallon, and then 0 to 60 time, quarter-mile time, and the way that the car is right now, and that's going to be our baseline. And then as we upgrade parts, we'll do the exact same thing. But as we upgrade parts, we'll disconnect the battery for about 5 minutes, let it completely discharge, and then we'll get at least I want to get about 150 miles on the car, because that'll give a chance for the computer to learn what the changes were that were done to the car. Because the PCM will adjust the fuel tables that came in the stock PCM a certain amount, so it'll adjust for some mods. And then we'll do another same thing. We'll do the loop for the 40-mile loop, see what the gas mileage is, and then we'll do 3 runs with the Draggy, and see what our 0 to 60 quarter-mile times are. So that's going to be the procedure for testing the upgrades we do to the car. Checked tire pressures this morning. Everything was good. Just stopped at the gas station and filled up. We're going to reset the trip odometer, and I'll see you again after we do, I think it's about 40 miles, we'll see. But yeah, I'll see you again once we do my 40-mile loop, and then we'll figure out what the baseline miles per gallon is. Alright, so we just did our 40-mile loop. I got 40.4 miles, and we used less than a gallon of gas, so 40.766 miles a gallon. Now, most of it's highway driving, going down to 81, so we're doing 70, and then highway driving on the back roads too. Still at least 55 miles an hour, so there's not much surface travel on this, but that's our baseline. We'll keep doing the same loop every time we do an upgrade, but we're starting at 40.766 miles a gallon. All right, I got my draggy up there on the dash, got the app opened up on my phone, and we're gonna do a run here quick. I gotta turn the phone off while I do it, or the camera off while I do it, because I got shift, so it'll be difficult trying to hold the camera and shift at the same time. So let me run it and I'll show you the results. So 3 runs, 0 to 60 is right around 11 seconds, and then quarter miles around 18 seconds, high 18s, 18.55 that time. So that's our baseline. I'll average the 3 out, and then that's what we use as baseline. So hopefully the only way from here is up. So stay tuned. Next episode will be the first modification that we'll do to the car. Thanks for watching. See you next time. So I messed up. I had to go back. I haven't used the Draggy app all that much, and when I was in the app looking at the runs, I found I was letting off the gas before a full quarter-mile run was done. So, but I got in 1/8-mile runs, so we're going to use that to, for a baseline for or a benchmark for improvements. So 1/8 of a mile, the car ran stock. We got 40.8 miles a gallon, 0 to 60s 10.98 seconds. That ran on 1/8 mile 11.84 seconds at 62.99 miles an hour. So 1/8 mile should work fine to see how the improvements go. I just don't have a good enough area to really get a full quarter-mile an hour run safely, so we'll just do 1/8 mile and I'll be fine. But yeah, so just need to update that, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.